Have you ever made a decision you were sure about, only to regret it later and wonder, what was I thinking? Chances are, your brain wasn't failing you. It was following invisible mental traps hardwired into all of us. And you're not alone. These thinking errors influence CEOs, doctors, investors, and even Nobel Prize winners every single day. Introduction. Welcome to The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli, a groundbreaking guide to recognizing and avoiding the 99 most common cognitive biases that sabotage our decision-making. Dobelli, a Swiss entrepreneur and thinker, distills decades of psychological research into short, punchy chapters that reveal how your brain tricks you and how to fight back. Whether you're trying to make better choices in business, relationships, or everyday life, this book is your map to clearer thinking and smarter decisions. Let's dive into the summary and start seeing the world through a sharper, more rational lens. Chapter 1. Survivorship Bias. Ever wondered why we hear so many success stories but hardly any failures? That's survivorship bias in action. We look at billionaires like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos and think, if I work hard and take big risks, I can be like them. But here's the problem. We're only seeing the survivors. What about the thousands who tried and failed but aren't in the spotlight? Their stories are invisible. Dobelli explains that focusing only on winners gives us a distorted view of reality. It's like analyzing the success of a battle by only studying the soldiers who came back, ignoring those who didn't make it. For example, if we study only successful startups to learn how to succeed, we're missing the full picture because we're not looking at the ones that failed despite similar strategies. So what can we do? Always ask, what am I not seeing? Look for the missing data, the untold stories, and be skeptical of advice based only on success stories. The real lessons are often in the failures we never hear about. Chapter 2. Confirmation Bias. Imagine Googling, "Why is my opinion right?" Sounds silly, but we do it all the time. That's confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that supports what we already believe, while ignoring anything that challenges us. Dobelli warns that this bias can sneak into every part of our lives: politics, relationships, even health. For example, if you believe a specific diet works wonders, you're more likely to read articles and watch videos that agree with you, and ignore the science that might say otherwise. The danger? It locks us in an echo chamber. We stop learning. We stop questioning. We become prisoners of our own opinions. The smarter approach? Be your own devil's advocate. Actively search for disconfirming evidence. Ask yourself, what would it take to prove me wrong? When you fight confirmation bias, you don't just win arguments. You make smarter, more balanced decisions. Chapter 3. Sunk cost fallacy. Let's say you've watched a terrible movie for an hour. It's boring, predictable, a total waste of time. But you think, I've already watched an hour, might as well finish it. That's the sunk cost fallacy. Rolf Dobelli explains this bias as our irrational attachment to things we've already invested in: time, money, effort, even when it no longer makes sense to continue. We do it with careers, relationships, business ideas. We stay because we've already given too much, not because it's still worth it. Here's a real-world example. A company pours millions into a failing project but won't pull the plug because they've already invested so much. They forget the past is gone. Only the future matters. The fix? Learn to cut your losses. Ask yourself, if I hadn't already invested, would I still choose this today? If the answer is no, it's time to move on. You don't need to keep digging just because you've already sunk the cost. Chapter 4. Authority Bias. We've all done it. Nodded along because someone important said it. That's authority bias. the tendency to believe something just because it comes from a figure of authority. Dobelli highlights how easily we're influenced by uniforms, titles, or fame. Doctors, CEOs, influencers. Once we label someone an expert, we stop thinking critically. Remember the Milgram experiment? People gave what they thought were deadly shocks to others just because a man in a lab coat told them to. Scary, right? In business, this shows up when leaders make poor decisions, but no one questions them. In everyday life, we trust advice from celebrities more than trained professionals. Just because they're famous. The antidote: respect authority, but always think independently. Ask, is this person actually qualified in this area? And more importantly, does the argument make sense, regardless of who says it? Authority should guide us, not blind us. Chapter 5. Social Proof, Her Behavior. Why do people follow trends even when they don't make sense? Because of social proof. We assume if everyone's doing it, it must be right. Dobelli explains this herd mentality through classic examples: stock market bubbles, fashion crazes, and viral videos. People jump on the bandwagon not because it's smart, but because they don't want to be left out. This bias helped our ancestors survive. If the group ran, you ran. But in modern life, it can lead us astray. Like when we buy a product just because it has thousands of reviews, or invest in something just because it's trending. To break free, think critically before following the crowd. Ask, is this right for me, or would I do this if no one else were? Being part of the herd feels safe, but thinking for yourself leads to smarter choices. Chapter 6. Availability Heuristic. What's more dangerous, shark attacks or falling coconuts? You'd probably say sharks because they're in the news. But coconuts kill more people each year. That's the availability heuristic. We overestimate the importance of information that's easy to recall. If something's dramatic or recent, it sticks in our minds and feels more likely. Dobelli shows how this messes with our risk perception. If we constantly hear about plane crashes, we fear flying, even though driving is far more dangerous. The media amplifies this bias by highlighting rare, shocking events. So how do we fix it? Rely on actual statistics, not your gut. Recognize that just because something comes to mind easily doesn't mean it's common or important. Take a step back and ask, is this really as likely as it feels? Don't let your memory hijack your judgment. Chapter 7. Loss Aversion. If I offered you $100, you'd be happy. But if I took away $100, you'd feel twice as bad. That's loss aversion. The pain of losing is stronger than the pleasure of gaining. Dobelli explains this with experiments, showing people would rather avoid loss than take a chance on a bigger reward. For instance, most people won't take a fair coin toss bet where they win $100 or lose $100, even though it's 50-50. This fear holds us back. We stay in dead-end jobs, avoid investing, or don't start that side hustle because the risk of loss scares us more than the chance of gain excites us. To overcome it, reframe the situation. Instead of thinking, what could I lose? Ask, what could I miss out on? Taking smart risks is how we grow. Don't let loss aversion shrink your world. Chapter 8. Outcome Bias. You made a bad call, but it turned out okay. Or you made a good decision, and it backfired. Should you judge yourself based on the result? Dobelli says no. That's outcome bias. Judging the quality of a decision by its outcome, instead of the thinking behind it. Let's say a friend drives home drunk, but doesn't crash. Does that mean the decision was smart? Of course not. Or an investor takes a huge risk and wins big. It doesn't mean it was a wise move. Outcome bias leads us to reward lucky fools and punish unlucky experts. It makes us fear good decisions with bad outcomes. To avoid this trap, focus on the process, not the result. Ask, Did I make the best choice with the information I had? If yes, then stand by it, regardless of the outcome. In the long run, good decision-making beats lucky wins. Chapter 9. Recency Effect. Ever binge-watch a show and love the finale? So now the whole season feels amazing? That's the recency effect. Dobelli explains how our brains give more weight to recent experiences. Whether it's the last item in a list, the ending of a movie, or your last interaction with someone, the most recent moment colors your entire memory. This shows up everywhere. In job interviews, where the last candidate often stands out. In presentations, where your final words matter most. And even in relationships, where the last fight can overshadow years of good times. The solution? Be aware of this mental shortcut. Don't let one recent event define the whole picture. When evaluating something, zoom out. Look at the full timeline, not just the end. Your brain might love a dramatic finish, but smart thinking sees the whole story. Chapter 10. Cognitive Dissonance. You believe in healthy living, but you just ate an entire pizza. Feel that discomfort? That's cognitive dissonance. Dobelli describes it as the mental tension we feel when our actions don't match our beliefs. And instead of changing our actions, we often twist our beliefs to match. Like saying, I'll work out tomorrow, or pizza has vegetables. It's not that bad. This mental gymnastics helps us feel better in the short term, but it clouds our judgment. We justify poor decisions instead of learning from them. To overcome it, embrace the discomfort. Notice when your actions and values don't align. Instead of rationalizing, reflect. Ask, what can I learn here? Or how can I realign with my values? Growth happens when you face the dissonance, not when you dodge it. Conclusion. And there you have it. 10 of the most mind-blowing thinking errors we all fall for, straight from the Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. What's crazy is these biases aren't just occasional slip-ups. They shape our everyday decisions, from what we buy to who we trust, and even how we see ourselves. But here's the good news. Once you learn to spot them, you're already thinking more clearly than most people. Dobelli doesn't just expose these mental traps. He gives us a mirror. And yeah, sometimes that reflection is a little uncomfortable, but it's also empowering. Because the more aware we are of how our brains actually work, the better we get at making smarter, more conscious choices. Of course, we've only scratched the surface. The full book covers 99 powerful insights, and honestly, it's one of those books you'll want to revisit again and again, especially if you're serious about improving how you think, work, and live. So, if this summary sparks something in you, go grab the full book. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to AudioBookCAPS, and drop a comment. Which of these biases have you caught yourself falling for? Thanks for watching, and remember, clear thinking isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. See you in the next summary.